All right, think with any luck, we're going live right now. Tommy Sheppard. We talked about you a lot yesterday. After a little scheduling snafu, but now you're really here. I really appreciate it. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm fantastic. It is awesome to be here. I look forward to talking about some hoops. I appreciate you having me on.
Before we really get into what matters, I do want to ask you about caffeine. Because you just flew on a red eye. I know you have a beautiful cup of coffee right there. Um, the one other little fact I have here is at one point I was on the phone with Brett Brown when he was coaching the Sixers, and he was driving to practice, and he went to the Starbucks drive-through, and I heard him say words I've never heard anybody else say. He said, "Can I
Great
have a quad venti, whatever it was?" And
NBA
I
head
was
coach.
like, "Quad?" Like,
Yeah,
I'm a coffee drinker. Like,
yeah.
how much does this league run on caffeine?
It's probably much better when it is on caffeine than when it isn't. That's the thing. Everybody comes in with the best intentions. It's like, no, just get some coffee, dog. Like, need it. Building's counting on you to have your coffee this morning. Get the best of everything. But I will say this: the NBA coaches, that the life that they live during this NBA season, I don't think people would want to have a piece of that. It's a lot.
I know somebody wrote a great story. I think it might have been Baxter Holmes years ago about like how tired everyone on the staff gets. And one thing I remember is there was I think it was a Spurs assistant who had Sharpie all over his forearm because what kept happening was he would be in like the next hotel, go down to the lobby, and then forget his room number because he was just so tired. So he just kept like crossing off like the last room number. So it's like 347. He's like, okay, 347. Like these people are spent.
Yeah, that's one way to remember your room number for sure. Probably over time, it's gonna look a little weird, but I know this. Sometimes it's what hotel you're in. Sometimes it's what city you're in. You get into that fog, and especially as you're in the dog days of it. March when the season just doesn't seem like the playoffs can't get here quick enough. Those road trips are some memorable ones for people forgetting stuff.
Do you have a room number trick that's not Sharpie?
I take a picture of it
Oh, that's smart.
and you just move on. It's
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Then you
big.
gotta bring your phone, though. If you leave your room without your phone.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. No,
I'm taking this way off track here, but, when the All-Star game was in Atlanta, 100 years ago, it was like, I don't know, 2002 or
yeah,
something like
Bill
that.
played the sax at the Players Association party that night.
You did?
No, Bill Clinton did.
Oh, Bill Clinton did. Yeah, I went to that party and left slightly before that happened, which was really cool to do.
Got
Um,
left apparently.
I gotta go to sleep. The theme of this is sleep. You gotta get sleep at some point, right?
Yeah.
Um I checked into what I think they called at the time the world's tallest hotel. Like I forget what it is, like a Radisson or something. Very big hotel. Tons of it was like the lobby was bananas. And I checked in, put all my stuff down, had my room key, um, went to the gym, and then came back and my room key didn't work.
Yep.
And I'm like, "What?" I don't like so I go to the front desk. I don't have any ID or anything. I just left everything in my room. So I go to the front desk and I'm like, I have a key. Like I can tell you who I am. And like I don't know what else I can do, you know? And this gets like a bunch of managers and stuff. They send like the senior security guy up to the room. And now I think this is right. This is a long time ago now. I'm pretty sure what happens is we get back to the room. At the room that I'm telling them is my room, there's a package out in the hallway for Gloria Gaynor.
Nice.
And they're like, this doesn't seem like your room, you know?
Is that your assumed name at hotels?
No, it's the actual pop star from what was her
God
hit
bless.
song? What was her hit song? I forget her hit song.
Oh,
Um,
you had a couple of them.
yeah. Um, and so I'm like, "Look, I'm gonna tell you where everything is in this room. Like, I'm gonna tell you where my bag is, where my wallet is, everything, and, like, you go in first, and if I'm wrong, like, I will leave you alone," you know? And, uh, and so they accepted this, and that's what we did, and then I had to get Gloria Gaynor's package to her, you know?
Yeah, that's big the night, man. You got in the room now. How am I gonna find Gloria Gaynor?
Yeah, yeah. These are weird challenges you get when you live in hotels, you know?
Yeah, buddy.
Um, okay, so, but back on track. Playoffs are happening, great games every night. I feel like it's been really like a kind of a showcase, and it strikes me, only because of, like, a passing comment you made to me about JB Bickerstaff that like that for you, who you root for probably has a lot more to do with who you go way back with than, this logo or uniform or whatever. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely, and in that series in particular, and I've known John Blair since he was 13 years old, and going into high school when I was working for the Denver Nuggets, his father, Bernie, hired me, and Bernie to this day is one of the people I admire the very most in our industry, and Kenny Atkinson, Kenny was coaching with Gordy Hebert over in Paris Racing when I first got to Washington, so I've known him over 20 years, and those 2 playing against each other, it's tough, it's like family fights. You can't pick one, you just try to be neutral, but,
So are you getting texts from both of them?
no, I leave them alone,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The only time I text coaches is after they lose, because that's the only you end up probably being one of 5 people that text them when they lose.
Yeah,
When you win, it's, yeah, you don't need
yeah.
they're already feeling great.
I did the same thing in journalism, like, if someone gets like Pablo Torre won a Pulitzer, and I didn't text him because everybody texts you that day, right?
That's right.
But if you get fired, then I text actually, I did text Pablo only because like, a little funny thing happened, but yeah, if you get fired, then I'm like, "I know you're not getting a lot of texts today." Like, let me
A lot of spam, a lot of emails coming in that they're all commercial stuff, nobody personal.
It's crickets from the humans,
Yeah, but they meant I text you
Um,
my heart.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, alright, so you have those that series is tough for you. Oh, and I'm just gonna little note, we can talk about this if you want or not, but, like, this is the time of year when people who don't usually watch basketball are taking a peek at it, right? And I can tell you that in my house, as basketball's been on, usually what I do is I'll watch it, like, after hours or early, just so it isn't, like, imposing on the dinner or whatever, but this time of year, I'm watching live. And what's happening is as people walk through the room where the TV is, the number one this happened like 4 times. People are like, "What's up with Kenny's hair?"
You know, it's all in love, right? But I gotta have to keep it moving. Everybody, uh, different way to be on the air. I've really, with the exception of sometimes not knowing exactly what channel games are on. I
Yeah.
think the playoffs are going great, and I really enjoy, especially what Amazon's done has been fantastic. I think all of those broadcasters are great. It's great to see Dirk and Nash, and I think UD does an unbelievable job. Boozer when he's on, John Wall, all those guys bring so much to the table. It's fun to watch players that were savants. Now they break down other players. It's really fun.
And I feel like like last night there was a little bit of a tiff between Richard Jefferson and, mm, Tim Legler
Mm.
about how to guard a certain action. And I was like, but I was like, "Oh, that's good." Right? Like, this is how they would actually usually we get such a dumbed down version in the broadcast, but I'm like, of course they would have a little disagreement about how to guard this action, right? Like, that's how players talk all day.
Oh, absolutely. And you're talking about some of the most competitive people on the planet. That doesn't leave you when you hang your uniform up. And so you
Yeah,
always
yeah.
look they both look at the game, probably from totally different lenses, and that's okay.
That's great. Yeah.
That's so healthy. Just as long as, you don't have the soccer mom effect where everybody's worried that they're gonna get in a fight. It's like, "Nah, that happens every moment of every day of the."
It's part of the vibe, like, you do all these really hard things together, you sweat together, you bleed together, and then you just talk crap about each other. Like, it's just
Especially the talk crap part.
yeah, yeah. My wife was in the room for that moment, and at one point, Richard Jefferson's like, "Okay, now you're yelling at me." And she's like, "Did they like each other?" I'm like, "I'm
Yeah.
sure this is absolutely fine." Like
Oh, yeah, no, they probably forgot about it as soon as it's after it happened, it was
yeah, yeah, yeah.
moved to the next argument.
So who else are you rooting for? Like, who else is hard for you to root against because you go way back with them in these playoffs?
Man, when I look across and I'm watching Nick Nurse, I just remember how long ago we did some stuff. He was coaching the London Towers in the Northern European Basketball League, which Sarunas Marciulionis put together. I helped him, and just seeing how far he's come and won an NBA championship, I'm always happy for him. Mike Brown is one of my closest. Mike and I shared office space in Denver in McNichols Arena, which means that our my dump was next to his dump. Like we just our offices were right back to each other, and we raised kids together, and so it's a family affair looking out there. And
Yeah.
with JJ Redick, I know Scotty and Nate real well, and you know, it's hard to root against LeBron, what he's doing at this point of his life. And then Mark Dangle was a GA at Florida when we drafted Beal, and Mark came to training camp with us. So it's
Oh, no way.
look out there, and it's like you're seeing everybody from your summer camp 30 years ago, and you're still friends. Sometimes it's like a DVR relationship. You catch up when you do, and you see each other, you press play, and it all comes back.
You're making me remember this. So that you saying that about Mark Daigneault and Beal, I don't remember how this came to me, but I wrote a story for ESPN on, like, maybe the day of the draft or day before the draft, where somehow I had intel that the Thunder loved Beal.
Yeah.
And I went and talked to Beal about it, and he was like, what can you say? The players before the draft are always like, "I would love that." They have to say that about every city, right? Like, but, um, but those 2 are actually together now, right? I mean, like, or Daigneault and the Thunder are anyway, right?
Right.
That's interesting. Okay. So yesterday when I was doing my strange 60-minute solo talk, uh, I kind of explored this issue of the Thunder model of rebuilding, which, obviously they're in a great position now. Um, but this will shock no one, but the kind of metaphor that I used, because I am who I am, is the Portland Trailblazers, who are going through their own rebuild. And maybe this is a bad setup, but, like, in some sense, you could compare, like, Denny right now to Paul George when he was in Oklahoma City, right? Really good players, um, still plenty left in the tank, on the upswing, the kind of player everybody wants, right? And the Thunder traded that guy for for the core of what they have now, right? It's very courageous to trade away a player as good as Paul George was when they traded him, right? And it was a special situation with Kawhi and all that, so they got an extra return. But I feel a little trapped in my head between, if you ran the Blazers right now, and we could use a different analogy if you want, but, like, you know, they have a lot of good things going. They have young players, they have picks coming, they have, you know, uh, you can see that things are going to get better. But also, if you had the real Sam Presti style cojones, you might consider trading Denny right now, which I don't think will happen. But you would get, you know, now you might be winning the 2031 championship, right? From that trade, right?
Yeah.
Um, and this gets into a little bit of, I know, like, Daryl Morey would always say, like, look, our goal isn't to be good. Our goal is to be the best of 30, which makes it kind of different from most businesses, right? Um, so anyway, I just kind of was wondering how you have been in this chair of thinking about these decisions. Like, are the Thunder a model for any other franchise? And if so, why?
Well, you can't say enough of what they were able to do and what Sam's done over time. Every strategic move, every little trade that comes back later, but certainly that started out with the Paul George deal, and they haven't looked back. Anytime you can acquire Shea,
Pretty
it's
good.
great right there, but all the other things that came with it. But you got to remember that was a moment in time. I don't think every team, if you aspire to do what they did, I don't think anybody would be as successful. It's just that moment in time, and all the different things that come with trades and come with the draft and stuff, and nobody really wants to mention. Hey, and by the way, we got lucky as hell.
Yeah.
It, and that's the one thing I think every GM in the league knows. You can have a fantastic strategy and it fails, and sometimes you don't know what the hell you're doing and you have success. And it's which one is it?
Yeah.
Play, get out on the floor and do amazing things.
Yeah.
Last year, Okie City, they deserved that championship. They had to go to 2 Game 7s to do it, and have an injury to the hottest player in the league in
Yeah.
Game 7 to do it.
And Aaron Gordon was injured in their other series. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, and I'm not taking anything away from him. I'm just saying that's how close it's a razor's edge
Yeah.
where you can be sometimes, and rebuilding is tough, and I think for every situation in the league, when you use that word, I say, "Okay, well, what is the alignment with ownership?" Especially now, the NBA has changed a great deal probably in the last 5 to 10 years with a lot of private equity, a lot of venture capital coming in, they have high expectations. I don't think there's such thing as passive income, and that's okay. To own a team, it's your team. What do you want to do? And the people that run the team have to kind of be in alignment with that. But I think a lot of people look at rebuilding as, hey, this is going to be 3 to 5 years. And then all of a sudden 10, 12 years go by. It's really hard. And you want to build a winning culture. You want your young players to feel winning. And it's hard to do that. It's hard enough to win one game in the NBA. We talk about that all the time. You talk to every head coach in the league, and they're just like, it is an amazing feeling to win one game.
Yeah.
All the things that have to go right. But I think that the rebuild that Sam and the Thunder have done is obviously it's exemplary, but it is really unique, and it was done during a unique period, unique circumstances. Everything they've done has paid off, and it'll continue to pay off. But again, they were in Game 7 last year, and I think this year they're going to see. They haven't seen the best of the Lakers yet, and if they get through that, whoever comes out of the San Antonio series, you know, I I still think Minnesota's got a puncher's chance to get back to Minnesota, and anything can happen.
Um, how how do you describe what they did do? I mean, I know obviously it was they had this. I mean, when you're using the word unique, I take that to mean like the Clippers were so crazy all in on getting Kawhi, and Sam figured that out, right, and had just infinite leverage for a second there. Um, and the Clippers had Shea, right?
Yeah.
Um, that's a lot of things coming together. But then they also did all the. I mean, I think that I'm right in saying the number of players that have been through that roster is north of 100. Like, they just I don't really understand exactly what the system was there, but it seemed like they were really trying to find something, right? Do you have a sense of what they were doing there?
Well, first you find too your identity. What are our habits going to be? What are our core pillars? And find players that are exemplars of that. And you can go right down the roster, all those names that came through there, and a lot of them left big fingerprints.
Yeah.
A lot of them had a profound impact on what they do, and they do such a great job with their alumni bringing people back and paying homage to them for the time that they spent helping them get to the top of that mountain. The one thing about the NBA, you get to the top of the mountain, enjoy the view for a second, because next day everyone wants to know what are you going to do next,
Yeah.
and that makes it tough, and every time a player signs a contract with the team or re-signs with the team, then they say, "Well, you're gonna sign the next deal? Are you gonna sign the next deal?" So there's always this added kind of it's like a stink bomb gets thrown in that, "Hey, don't even bother to enjoy this because something's coming up right away."
Yeah.
And, I love the fact that there's been so many different champions. There hasn't been a big dynasty run, but I still when I see what Okie City's doing, it makes you almost admire what Golden State, what San Antonio did forever. That was a hell of a gold standard, and Sam came from that San Antonio tree. So I think looking at what they were able to do, the players that they went through, it all started with who are we going to be? What
Mhm.
system going to be? How process oriented are we going to be? And they stuck to it. And one of the big keys in that all, in my opinion, was their ownership was right there with him, with Sam, with his staff, making sure, hey, it's going to get tough. We can do these things. We can do tough things. And they're really unique there in that they're the only game in town.
Mhm.
There's not other tenant in their building. There's not, Oklahoma football is right down the road, but that's a little bit different. But that makes all the difference in the world. If you're in a busy market, a noisy market, it has tons of teams and a lot of divided attention, that your team doesn't quite get the attention. There, they got all eyes on them.
Mhm. Mhm. Here at True Hoop, I know Thorpe was very worried for a while that he was like, "Shea's not gonna wanna hang around for" I forget what their low point was, but 20 something wins, right? He thought that stars as good as Shea very often would ask to be traded in that situation, but something they convinced him, right? They have trust. The way he talked was always just, like, perfect. He always seemed, like, completely unquestioning. How'd
Yeah.
they do that?
You can win anywhere, and we just talked about a couple, totally different markets that won championships, multiple championships. And San Antonio is, on par city-wise, the size of it with Okie City. And I don't know if it's about the market itself, but what can you, do off the court
Mhm.
because of your success will that come to you? And it has, you can't see a commercial in the playoffs without seeing Shea in some way, shape, or form, and Chet and Jalen, those guys. It's great. I love it.
Mhm,
I don't know if it was convincing Shea as much as Shea saw it and said, "Hey, this is my team. They're putting pieces around me. The community upholds us. The community supports us, and I can live in this community in peace with my family." That's a hard thing to give up, and I think as more and more players move around, there's the old saying, you can't chase happiness. If you're happy where you're at, hey, why not stay there?
mhm. It's a kind of it always felt to me like the trust was high too, right? Like, I don't know how they do that exactly, but it always seemed like, um well, I guess the tension as it's been described to me by people who've had your job, is that rebuilding is a long-term plan, and the people on top might get itchy, right? They might wanna go faster. And
Yeah.
so, can you adhere to the long-term plan even when short-term hurts, right? And that's where the Thunder always seemed pretty in lockstep, right? It seemed like Shea believed it, Clay Bennett believed it, a couple different coaches believed it, which is a dream setup for a good rebuild, I guess.
Yeah, and I think I'm always a big when you look back at things, show me your scars, and I'll tell you how they propelled you forward. And that CBA where they didn't do, the smoothing, that really hurt Okie Cities in particular, obviously, with Durant left, and, like, that's gonna change the way you think, and that's gonna.
But so just to recap what you just said, this was where, if I have it right, this was like the 2011 CBA. There was a lot of talk about, well, the salary cap was gonna jump up, but there was talk about, should we have it step up?
Yeah, smooth it in,
Yeah,
dump it in.
and I don't remember how that exactly affected the Thunder. Can you explain
But
it?
the way to look at it ultimately is it allowed Golden State to free up money, and they
Okay.
find somebody that probably wouldn't have been able to be signed any other way.
I gotcha, I
It's
gotcha.
just strange. I don't wanna bring back PTSD for people who were around in that time, but it was not it wasn't a healthy time for spending habits. It did, it changed I think that changed a lot of the direction Okie City could have gone, and it doesn't matter, they got a championship and they move forward, but that was a heck of a run when they had Russ and KD, and you can even go back when James was there and they were in the finals to where they are now. I think the one thing that's kept them going throughout all that is that connective tissue. There's a lot of people there, and I think one of the neatest things that they do there is had taken everybody down to the Okie City to the memorial there
Mhm, mhm.
for a building, and I think that sets the tone of, we are servants in this community, we are members of this community, and it really impresses upon the players, and then you sit back and observe, and who buys into that culture? Who buys into that? It shows pretty quick if you don't, and you won't be there very long.
There's this thing I just love too, which is, Sam Presti, I think, talks meaningfully in public once a year and talks about books he's reading and philosophy and all this kind of different stuff. But, he really has a theme of this, like, we want everyone to keep growing
Yep.
in the job. So, like, it's not how sports usually works, right? We usually talk about, what do you have in your bag? Run your stuff, right? But this is more like, when as I recall him talking about it, like, the star player is out for a chunk of a season. It's like, okay, it's a chance for the rest of us to learn how these lineups work and how we can win with these lineups and just keep learning, 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 which does satisfy a lot of, like, it's just great to think that you're supposed to keep growing,
Yeah.
right? It makes you love your job a lot more when there's an infrastructure saying, hey, let's see what else you can do.
Yeah, and I think he's earned it. The Thunder certainly have earned that right, and they have a much longer runway to
Yeah.
experiment with things, and they can take on a tough season, an injury. You know, Jalen really hasn't been half the contributor this year, because of injuries, but he's the reason they won the championship last year. So, to be able to continue to be successful without one of your top players it speaks to their depth, but also speaks to the confidence of the team that, hey, we have enough, we can step up. Because when one of your top players is injured, man, it takes such a toll on the locker room. It's hard.
Yeah.
At first, it's fun, and guy gets to play more minutes, and everybody's excited, and then you realize, oh man, there's a reason that guy was coming off the bench, not starting. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
go to Broadway a couple nights, you might hear the understudy and say, "Not bad," but by the 3rd or 4th night, you're like, "Yeah,
I was looking, so I think that I did not research this at all, but I think the Thunder have 2 first round picks. Um, Maybe I'm wrong about that. At least 2 anyway, and no roster spots really. It pretty much looks to me that they'd have to take, like, Kenrich Williams' spot, I think would be most likely, and, he's pretty good. Um, it just struck me, I'm like, I don't know. I've written a couple stories about it. No one seems to care, but I'm like, the number of picks that they have moving forward is alarming.
Yeah, it is, but it's again, that was great foresight, but it also lets them gamble on stuff, and I still think that McLean deal was fantastic for them,
Yeah, yeah.
and they got the multiple picks that other teams want. You'll get players that probably nobody else could get because you have the extra pick, the extra thing to get the deal done, and that's again, that's a heck of a planning from way back to hope for these kinds of days. The one
Oh, yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, sorry, go
what's
ahead.
tough when you keep drafting rookie after rookie after rookie, and they're all kind of bunched together, is you gotta pay all the guys, and
Yeah.
that money just now with these aprons being discussed, it's really gonna I think the market's gonna start settling itself in to where you say, "Hey, we're gonna have to make decisions on who we're gonna keep pretty quick, get those guys extended, and get everybody else out."
So they have Shea, Chet, and Jalen are getting the big contracts, right? Which does that mean, just the way the cap works, that no one else is getting a huge deal from the Thunder?
No, it doesn't. There's some creative ways to do things, and without trying to even guess what they would do, I would say that if you want somebody, you keep that person and you'll figure it out. And maybe somebody
Yeah,
else gets spun off or, somebody takes a little shorter deal, you know,
yeah, yeah.
or, the way that with strategy now with the cap people in the room, you can start to do some pretty creative ways to pay people out. And
Mhm.
always going to be the big edge now, before was, hey, we got to go get the talent. Now you got to keep the talent. So you got to have that edge of how do you pay these guys thoughtfully that you can keep a good run 3, 4 years together, 6 years. In Minnesota's case, they got a lot of guys that played together for 6 years. That's amazing in this NBA.
That's amazing. Yeah. I think also the Thunder have this unique problem, which is they need really good players to make this roster better.
Yeah, you're right. It'd be that's I'm not starting rumors anything like that, but
Yeah, yeah.
players from certain teams that are out there right now that doesn't look like maybe someone in Milwaukee may not be there next year. I don't know if he makes sense in Okie City, right? Like there's just certain players that I don't know if that's the spot for them,
Right.
but it's going to be a very exciting offseason. I just wanted, the playoffs are so much fun and we're immersed in that. And that's what's so cool. But for the hope, for the fans that didn't get their teams in this year and stuff, what they're looking forward to, you can always say that the trade market will be as busy as it always was.
So, before I'd love to ask you about that, but, just to finish the rebuilding thing, is there another, I mean, I've obsessively made you answer a bunch of questions about the Thunder, but, like, they're not the only rebuilding team.
Now,
Who's doing a good job of it?
San Antonio,
Yeah,
but you know what? Again, they've done a heck of a job of being really good in the lottery. Like the picks kept coming. They got guys at the top. They have the most amazing player on the planet, in my opinion.
unbelievable.
A
Yeah,
and where he could go, that kid is just he's gonna be a worldwide unifier. People are gonna look at that and say, "We've never seen something quite like him." So that's exciting what's coming, and they rebuilt pretty quick too. And
yeah.
in their own way, it was organic. They kept some people together. They had a huge sacrifice by Keldon Johnson.
Mhm, mhm.
Wise to do because it was gonna probably happen with or without his permission, but to step back and go to the bench and let other guys thrive, and then, he comes back with 6 man of the year. And
Yeah,
Harper's wonderful, getting Fox was good. They got some really nice pieces, they got some good stuff coming. You know, when they walk in, they see all the trophies they've earned, and and they see the great legacy players that are walking around there with Tim, with Manu. Park will be through there, and they have a very strong culture there that
yeah.
maybe people forgot about for a couple of years when you're not in the finals every year like they used to be. But I think they're every bit as strong as any team in the league moving forward.
And as much as it's easy to say it's because they got Victor, which is a huge factor, they're good when he's on the bench, right?
Yeah.
They're
Uh,
they're they're good. Um, and I'm wondering, here's where David Thorpe is not with us, but he's kinda with us, he's kinda
always
lingering.
there in spirit.
He's here in spirit, but he would say that a huge factor is not, can you get Dylan Harper, but what work does Dylan Harper do after you get him to become productive in the playoffs, which is not common at his age at all, right? Who like that this seems like this kind of giant thing. The Thunder are also clearly super good. I mean, they've had everybody ends up being a good shooter basically in Oklahoma, right? That's pretty freaking handy, like
Yeah, but there's things that are probably maybe not, household names,
yeah.
but there's I look at Chip Engelland and what he was able to do as an assistant, probably one of the very best shooting coaches the NBA's ever had, and you look at the resume when he was with the Spurs, now you look at the resume that he's with Okie City. You just said, "Look how well they shoot." Well, someone's there, involved. And I look at that's the impact coaches have. Coaches really, really, really matter in the NBA. I know sometimes it's hard to believe when you see these guys out there doing some amazing things and everyone just wants to say, "Oh, it's God-given talent." Well, it's not. It's a ton of hard work and somebody's there working with them. There's some great coaches, and I look at San Antonio and their progress. Well, they got Sean Sweeney there right next to Mitch, and they got a great staff of young coaches out there busting their ass every night. And it's neat to see all those things kinda come together. I think
Yeah.
it does matter.
Yeah, I don't know, there's probably some way to do the analysis, but I'm guessing Chip England's, like, value to the franchise is astronomical, right? Like, they drafted players who were in many cases so-so shooters, and now they're 40% from 3, almost all of them, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's all Chip.
But
Is he the only one who coaches shooting at that team? Or is he the main one? I don't know how it works.
I don't know their workflow. I know
Yeah.
Chip real well. He's one of the great guys in the NBA, but, you go back to working with Tony Parker, working with Kawhi when they were with the Spurs and kinda where their three-point line started shooting, but where their efficiency improved, where their consistency of the shot improved. If it's from the 3, from mid-range, wherever it was, he did a great job of helping people identify, "This shot will work for you in games.
Mhm.
Make sure that one's always right at your fingertips, and you're confident in that shot."
Mhm.
And I think that's the one thing, if I could say what that separates some of the coaches in this league is the people that can really, implore a player to be their very best, give them the confidence to do that, and then step back and let them do that.
Mhm, mhm. Thorpe has a lot of phrases, but one of them that I love is, like, you put it in your backpack. So, like, you're packing for a trip, and it's like, "Oh, this move, like, boom." Like,
Yeah.
so you can't go in the middle of the game and pull out something that isn't already in your backpack, right?
Yeah.
Like
Or even golf clubs, it's the same thing, same,
yeah. Yeah.
like, you don't have that club, don't ever reach for that club, don't
Yeah.
that club, get rid of that club, or vice versa. "Hey, pull that club out, you got this.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good feeling. We're paying you to use that club, like, go use that club. Yeah.
We need you to use that club. My family's counting on you to use that club."
Yeah, 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 I love that. Okay, so I know that since you left the Wizards, you've been all over the world. You were just on a red eye, and, we've talked somewhat, but I know that one of the things that you've been learning about, talking about is just bodies, like athlete care. What do we know about this? So that kind of I was writing a book on parallel topic at the same time, and I just was wondering, what's your mission? What have you learned? Where are we headed? How can we do this better? Answer all those for me if you would.
Yeah. I'm yeah, I think it just everyone around the world is unified in that they want players to be healthy. Doesn't matter what sport. I went out, I spent time with Aussie rules football,
Oh, wow.
time around, field hockey, different sports, lacrosse. I spent some time in Vegas with the rodeo when NFR was there,
No way.
psychologists who got to talk to people. So much of it has to come together. You have to work the body properly, you have to rest the body, and you have to feed the mind. And if those things, one of those things is missing, everything else collapses. Just like you identified in ballistic with Marcus, how important the hips, the ankles, the knee, like everything has to be a chain working together. And I think as we go across the world, people are very curious about the NBA's injuries because they said, and they're not. Everyone's too busy to really stop and say what exactly is going on. But what we do see is that there's not practice time. I know that sounds old, and everybody was excited to get rid of 4 and 5 nights, and I think that was a good thing. But I think you're not working the bodies quite as much in the off days. So we go right to rest to full go, back to
Mhm.
rest to full go. You're a marathon runner, right? And I don't think, a week before your race, you're not running, right? You're out getting it. You got to still put miles in. You got to stay sharp.
Mhm.
And that's going to be an argument held forever. I'm a big believer you got to lift weights during the season. Some people don't believe in that, and it just as you wear down during the year, the first thing is that you got to get rest. But I think active rest is what the rest of the world really subscribes to. Is you got to constantly be putting your body in stressful situations. You've got to be able to jump out, do hard landings, forceful landings, because especially in the NBA, there's so much athleticism that can really, really disguise some inefficiency. And that's where one day all of a sudden somebody's leg snaps or their knee snaps or God forbid their ankle, Achilles, whatever it is, and you realize it wasn't just that one motion that did it. It was everything that came before that. And
Mhm.
not training properly, you can get by for a long time till you can't, and then it gets
Mhm.
catastrophic. And you see so many careers, when people's backs give out. Well, it wasn't the back, it was everything that led up to that, you know that.
Mhm.
Those are the
Mhm.
things I really try to focus on. I think there's some intelligent thoughts out there now, and I really, really can't say enough about sleep and what you're eating and how that's impacting as well. I've gotta do a better job myself with sleep, but, I can feel it right now 'cause I got off my sleep cycle for a couple of days, but imagine playing 82 games. Imagine playing 164 games, if you're if one of those things aren't being cared for, if your dashboard has a bunch of red lights and you're ignoring it, just sit back because 'cause there'll be a crash.
Yeah, I remember a really weird day of my life was I don't even remember exactly the course of events, but the US Olympic team was in Tokyo,
Mhm.
and, I wrote something that pissed off Damian Lillard, basically, is what happened, and Aaron Goodwin called, and he was like the middleman. And and I know that at that time, whatever time of day it was 5 a.m. in Tokyo, and they had played that night,
Yeah, he was working out.
and Aaron's like, "Oh, well, Dame's calling." And I was like, "Well, just conference him in." And he did, and then Dame's in his hotel room. I'm like, "Why are you awake?" You know what I mean? Like, it was like I don't know, they left the gym at what, midnight? And that's 5 hours later, and he's still awake, or maybe he slept, I don't know. But he was just like he was kinda like, "Don't worry about
Yeah.
that."
But if he was hot about something, it's hard
He
to
was.
I think after games, that's really hard for people to understand. Like, it takes players a while. That adrenaline's gotta leave the body. It's not like you can just get on the plane and go to sleep, and you're in the spin cycle basically. Because
Yeah,
by the time you get home to your car after, going West Coast to East, or however you wanna say it, you're getting ready to go to bed at 6 a.m.
yeah,
That's not the norm. And you do that over time, you start to see the breakdown and the brain fog and everything else that comes with it.
yeah. And there's, like, in my own lame athletic career, if I wanted to be at my peak for a 7:30 PM thing, like, I would probably, use some electrolyte drink with caffeine in it, or,
Yeah.
whatever. All these they're uppers. You would use uppers. But you know what? Big difference at midnight if you have or haven't used uppers at 7:30. You know what I mean? Like, it's a choice. It's a trade-off.
I think it's now more than ever. Nothing's really changed. The intel is the biggest commodity in this business. If it's roster construction, if it's health, whatever, you've got to be pretty in the know about what's going on currently and what's best practice. Because what really was great 5 years ago doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that, especially in supplement world and trying to help athletes and things that we used to give athletes and find out, okay, that wasn't the right thing. Well, you can't undo the damage possibly, right? That happened maybe, but I think it's so, so important that the players, the active participants, that don't just they should never just accept a cup from somebody and drink it. Like, what is in this? And
Mhm,
real
mhm.
because your body is absolutely that's the money maker for the rest of your career. You want to take care of it.
So you said a lot of interesting things there. I when we first started talking about bodies and what you've learned, I always think about this study that I think I'm right in saying that, like, in the Premiership, they used to play once a week, and then they had all these European tournaments,
Mhm.
and they started playing twice a week, and injuries went up sixfold.
Yeah.
And I there's a big paper about this. This is not cutting edge. This is from 15 years ago. But I'm gonna summarize the paper was basically once you play twice a week, you can't do a hard workout ever. Whereas you play once a week, they would do a super hard workout, like in the NFL, they do a super hard workout on Tuesday, and then you get fully recovered before your weekend game. And Marcus, I've been banging the drum that there are too many games, and Marcus is kinda like, he
Yeah.
won't totally come along with me. He's like,
You
"We're
need it.
undertrained. They're badly undertrained. We don't know how much they" and Mikal Bridges goes to P3, right? He seems like maybe he can kinda deal with it. He's like, "We don't know how many games players could take if they were properly trained." But the
Yeah.
trick is, like, these properly trained workouts are hard as hell, right? What Marcus wants them to do is taxing,
Right.
and, can you fit that into the NBA schedule?
Well, it's so much of it is, you'll find out in the winter what you did in the summer.
Yeah.
I think preparing, certainly being properly trained has to be preceded by properly assessed. But
Mhm.
a lot of people that, like I said, the NBA players are the most unbelievable overcompensators you've ever seen. They can get up 3 jumps in a row, top of the box, boom, boom, boom. That's an amazing force running through your body. And then a quick twitch, they're up, they're down, go back. Do that over time if you're not properly trained and your hip is starting to flex out and
Mhm.
you're moving, rotating differently. All of a sudden, that person that was so athletic can't move anymore. And it's
Mhm.
bad enough over time and you're training in a certain plane and that it turns out that wasn't the right plane for you, all you're doing is just taking a hammer to your leg, right? And that's
Mhm. Mhm.
at all. So I think really using science, the evaluation, the force plates is so critical now. That's just stuff that we learned. And when you learn something like that, it's okay to say, well, we used to do it this way and we got
Mhm.
good results, but this is better for the
Mhm.
we got to really think about the next generation of kids coming up and making sure that they're have the best resources, training the best for the future of the game. Because, you know, AAU takes a lot of grief for the tons of games that they play in the summer. I'm always happy to see kids play basketball instead of just doing drills all day. Like, you go out and play ball. That's the way that you train your body to play basketball is play basketball, and
Mhm.
that gets a little bit lost too. But I think it's really, really critical, and Marcus has been leading the charge forever about, hey, it is hard work every day to keep your place in line in the NBA. The only thing harder than getting to the NBA is staying.
Mhm.
Amazing athletes, they can't cut it, and then there's some guys that just really aren't that athletic, but they know their body well enough, they stick around. And, I'd throw in that pile, there's people that get resurrected. I know that,
Mhm.
Marcus was a huge reason Kyle Korver got back and stayed healthy after some really rough injuries because he figured out this needs to change, and Kyle committed to changing, and the results were speak for themselves.
Yeah, I just love this moment where, Kyle had played 16, 17 years, and his wife was like, "Hey, we have all this money. We have this beautiful house. We have these kids. We can go anywhere and do anything, right?" And he wasn't getting a call. I mean, it seemed like his NBA career was over. And then late in the summer, the Bucks call, and so his wife's like literally packing to move from Santa Barbara to Milwaukee, and she knocks into Marcus, and she's like, "This is all your fault."
Uh, not not a move somebody would normally choose to do, but, the call of the wild and play
Um, do you think we can have the injury rate is pretty alarming, right, in the NBA, um, and I know I looked at a month ago, maybe 2 of the top 10 salaried players were active,
Yeah,
8 were out, and I think of those 8, something like 4 or 5 of them are out for the year. Can we do like, I know there's some wiggle room for improvement, right? I know that, Marcus is leading a charge that has many other components and many other people working, and there's some green shoots of doing a better job of assessing these things and heading off preventing injuries is something we're actually maybe going to start really doing at scale. Um, how much better can we get though? Right? I mean, do you think that we can keep these players this schedule and just have a lot more players healthy?
I think the key here is just to say people are always gonna be injured playing in the sport with the unbelievable athletes and the size that they are and 2 bodies ramming at each other throughout the course of a season. You're gonna have injuries. It's about how quickly you can recover and stay recovered.
Mhm.
The worst thing to happen, I think you guys had a great point in ballistic where the knee, ACLs happen. There's some players that never had any issues with their knees ever, but they were coming off an ankle injury and all of a sudden they
Mhm.
yell, it's did you train properly for the injury that was required at that moment and follow the chain up?
Mhm.
And I think the piece I'm always gonna bang the drum on too is when someone is injured and they're out for a prolonged period of time, make sure that you're paying attention between the ears as much as you are to that injury, where the injury's at, because it's a long, cold place when you're injured for a player, and they're not doing what they love. They're watching everything out there going on without them. It's a helpless feeling. It can get dark, and they're working hard on that injury, but nobody, everybody's fixated on how's your knee, how's your knee, and no one's asking, how are you?
Yeah.
And I think that's part of this thing too now is that a lot more players are taking advantage of the mental health resources to help them through these difficult times. But I don't think we can say that enough of how important it is to have that whole body, the body and the spirit kind of aligned in this. I do think we can continue to get better with injuries by spotting assessments ahead of time that says if you don't change this, this injury will happen. Here's the data
Mhm.
staggering to see the data when you go, "Oh my god." We've had over 70% of players, I think, in the NBA have been evaluated either P3 somewhere, pretty well.
Mhm.
It most of that data is it's just data. That's all it is, but it sure is right. Every single time you look at it, you're like, "Yep, they saw this injury coming." Sometimes things just happen. And what happened to Vanderbilt the other night, that's not gonna show, "Oh god," his pinky came out of the skin. That was not something that could be predicted, right? Like, that's over here.
Yeah.
But the injuries that really don't get addressed for the long-term health, let's just get out there, let's get back on the floor. Some games are very important, and you wanna see players you wanna allow them to go out and tough it out if they're ready to and they know their body well enough. You just don't wanna see them their will is so much can't even tell you how badly players wanna compete, how much they wanna be playing, that you really do have to take them off the court and be the bad person because they will play with just about anything.
Mhm.
Stakes are high, they wanna play. But you also wanna make sure, hey, you're good for the rest of your career, and I look at what, Tatum had to do the other night, I know that was killing him.
Mhm. Mhm.
Also just coming off an Achilles injury, you don't wanna have another one, so that was a wise it's tough, it was
That's
tough
tough.
for them go down, but I think that was a wise investment.
There is something, like everybody loves this sport, right? Everybody who's listening to us right now loves this sport and players love this sport. I have had some pretty serious exposure to athletes from other sports who train really hard and they don't go play baseball all off season.
No.
They don't go play football all off season. But basketball players are addicted, right?
Yeah.
like if, they have a training problem at P3 and other places, which is if a bunch of cool players are in town, no one's coming to training, right? Because they just are so excited to this is what they do for a living.
Oh, hoop.
And they're just so the game is super fucking fun, you
Yeah.
know? It just is. And honestly, it feels great to me this time of year because clearly, just on my TV, the machine gets turned on. It's like, do everything you can do. Show us the full you, right? Whereas just in, March, April, so many games were like, well, you got to hold back, or this person's in street clothes, or it was just kind of a marginalized version. But to me, like, it is kind of thrilling to have this, like, no, 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 like, bring everything, like,
Yeah.
fire all the guns. The game is fun regardless. It's extra fun when it's like that.
Well, no question, and I get so inspired by, like, Cade Cunningham, right? What he's doing.
Hmm.
Oh, he is about to put the crown on the head here pretty soon. He's one of
Hmm.
the best that the league has at that position. A couple years ago, he was out for the year, had a rod in his leg.
Hmm.
So given that inspiration of, "Hey, injuries suck. What are you gonna do about it? And how are you gonna go forward from that? And who do the resources you put around to make sure that if he can be healthy again, what can happen? And look what's happening." That
Hmm.
shows you how beguiling and injuries can be because they kind of diminish somebody's value in the league, right? Oh, he's always hurt. Well, what if we keep him healthy?
Yeah.
Then, and you're like, oh my God, this guy could be an MVP player.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, that was starting to be the rap. Is oh, he's hurt all the time. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Let's get him right. How can we get him right?
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, so Cade's a fascinating. He's one of a handful of players who had a similar set of injuries. These were like lower leg stress fractures, like stress type reactions. And that's when I was writing the book. And that was a topic of discussion because they were not common injuries in the past, but they were becoming seemingly more common. And this is not based on assessing Cade or any one particular player, but a theory that was knocking around P3 on this topic and other ones is that the game got much faster, much more explosive. That they can just demonstrate straight up in the data. If you look at players now doing like the one-off skater move, like they are much more explosive than they were 10 years ago. That's like a fact. So Cade has to move his body harder, faster than players did in Larry Bird's time. But at the same time, there's been a tremendous emphasis on hip mobility, hip strength. That gets Cade faster. But at P3, they're upset that there has not been an analogous bunch of focus on lower leg muscles, right? If your leg's the knee's caught in the middle, but the hip and the lower leg muscles kind of determine the physics of the landing and the explosion, blah, blah. And it seems like maybe we've introduced a new kind of injury, which is your hips are crazy strong and your lower leg isn't. And so you're moving at a bazillion miles an hour with huge newtons of force going through your leg, but you haven't prepped the lower leg for that. And it's showing up in these kind of stress reactions.
Yeah, I think strength coaches now in the NBA more than ever, they've really got to embrace the squatting area and how important squats are to
Yeah.
raw strength of your body. And with like you just said, the hammies and the quads, everything that's connected in there. If you're during the season, you're like, well, I don't lift during the season. It's like, okay, this is not going to end well for you. You just know that, and that's
Yeah.
because there's more focus on that now than ever. When you look at an injury, look at everything, as they say, don't look where you fell, look where you slipped. Look at
Yeah.
other things that kind of led to it, and there's so much video now that you can go back to, and you're walking through with the player because, like I said, players always think I'm ready to play. You said, "Oh, well, let's look at the video. Let's compare it. Let's put it side by side." And now with some of these motion detecting things that you can do in the lab and show literally you can't do the same move yet. Why put yourself at risk?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the player's going to have a big say in this, but you really want to try to convince them that this is about the rest of your life. I'd rather you miss a week than a month. I'd rather you miss a month than a season. I'd rather you miss a season than the rest of your career. You have to have that kind of discipline. You look around the league and some of the MVP players, Joel Embiid, God bless him. He is a warrior. That guy battles through all kinds of stuff. It started when he was coming right out of college. He had some tough injuries. So you imagine the wear and tear on the body, but also up here. Here I go again. I got to get through these injuries. That's so hard for players.
He has had some. I've honestly lost track. Like, what's his injury now? Yeah, he just missed game 2. Like, well, he has had so. I feel like the whole thing is duct tape. They're just like, yeah. Anyway,
Yeah,
poor guy.
it's a cruel thing to be finally he's healthy, ready to roll, and having appendicitis. It's like so there's a voodoo doll or something. Somebody fucking him every which way. The fans get robbed of seeing one of the great players.
Yeah,
He at his full strength.
yeah, yeah. Um, there's Marcus has this phrase that like elite athletes are movement savants,
Mm.
and what he means by that is like they'll get where they have to get. And so if something isn't working in their body, they'll brilliantly recalibrate and recruit different muscles and different soft tissue to, reach the high point to get the block or dunk or whatever. But that super neurological capacity to get to these incredible highlight like moments has a big downside, which is, well, there's one story that he told me, which is in the book, is there was a top like a lottery pick who was player of the year in college who came to get assessed at P3 right before his career was about to start after getting drafted, and they noticed on the assessment that he landed without his heel touching the ground at all. He would hold his heel up, which puts crazy amount of stress on the other
All that
knee.
force right on, yeah.
Yeah. So then they went to him and, private, and they were like, "Hey man, we're really worried about the stress on your on your I think his right heel was staying up, and so we're right about your left knee." And he was like, "Well, I didn't tell, like, nobody knows this. Only my agent knows, but I went and got a secret MRI on that left knee because 'cause it's been killing me." And so they're like, "Okay, this is the downside of being movement savant, is, like, he tested athletically super well, and he went on to have a good NBA career." But at that moment, his body's just recruiting, like, it's like a baling wire and duct tape version of how you get to that point, and that those are like, we don't have a million different programs that are healthy and sustainable to move like that, right? You kinda wanna get on the main one.
I can't say it enough, that first exposure when you first get to the NBA, to the weight room, to getting your daily routine in the physical therapy room and the weight room, that sets you up. A lot of times, unfortunately, people don't really find the weight room till after they get hurt. 'Cause
Mm,
what they've done forever got them to the league, and a lot of guys don't like you changing their diet, don't like you changing their routines. They're like, "That's what got me here."
mhm,
So you always try to get the buy-in is, "Oh, let's make sure that you stay here."
mhm.
And a lot of people, you go back and kind of review with players, and they're like, "Yeah, after I hurt my knee, then I had to get in the weight room, and I've never been back. I've never been hurt again." That you hate to have a bad incident before you learn how to do the right things. It's really important to get that buy-in early.
Yeah, that's, somewhere I don't know if who told me this, someone was basically under stress, elite athletes tend to wanna revert to the workouts they did when they were in high school.
Every time.
And
Yeah.
so, because they were kicking ass in high school, right? They felt great, but you're 17 playing against 17-year-olds and, at a speed that is not NBA speed, right? So, of course, it felt good, right? The question is, how do you handle being 24 against NBA competition? And that one might need weights.
A little bit more. It's funny, along the same line, I always a big advocate when players are struggling, they go through slumps during the season and stuff. I usually try to grab the video guide and get him to find some clips of high school, get
Mhm,
clips when it was really fun, and they watch themselves in a totally different lens because
mhm,
they know when they're not doing well.
mhm.
They're always convinced I can just shoot myself out of it. I just need this or that. But sometimes it's just a little bit of revisualization and recentering yourself, and the brain can get caught into some negative thoughts, and if you can move past that with a some sort of visual prompt, is very powerful. And I say, especially when guys are coming off injury, keep showing them when they were at their best, and that keeps them being very pure about their training methods, and it really does. It gives them a little bit more hope and inspiration.
And I mean, it's battle, right? You're going in there. It's not just difficult in the sense of, like, I did a workout at the gym this morning that was difficult, but
Mhm.
I don't have another person trying to destroy me,
Yeah,
right? Like I think that hope is kind of super important if you're, like, going up against somebody. You have to believe you got a shot here, right?
absolutely. There's so much at stake now too. Let's just be completely transparent. Some people find the weight room in their contract season, and that's okay.
Hmm.
Go out, have the best season. Hopefully that'll stay with them after that.
Yeah, yeah. When does it happen? I've always been confused about this, like, if in season weightlifting happens every day
You
on
can
game days, like, how does it happen?
Everyone kind of approaches it a little different. I think you can have 20-minute spurts where you can get in there and, "Hey, look, today we're gonna do some goblet squats, do some do you can add 3 or 4 exercises, short bursts, go heavy,
Mhm,
you're striking the system. Don't go in there and have the spa lift, and most of the strength coaches are great at knowing individual workouts are really where it's at. You can't just put a workout up on the board. All the
mhm,
players doing
mhm.
everybody's totally different. These are long levered athletes. These are some people are explosive, some people aren't. All so everything's tailored individually. And the players, they'll be the first to tell you, "Nah, this ain't for me. So how are we going to adjust it for them?" But it doesn't have to be an hour and a half long. It doesn't have to be 300 pounds overhead. It doesn't have to be 380 on the bench. But you
Mhm.
strike the system to keep it strong, keep it sharp.
When you in your travels and your Aussie football and your rodeo and all that, is there some stuff that you wanna steal, bring back to basketball?
Yeah, there's a lot of things I think validate the thoughts that we're having. This summer at the NBA Summer League, there's an NBA sports medicine series, and it's put together by Danny Langford, with Golden State and some of the speakers they're bringing in. It's starting to really take off, and I think this summer is gonna be fantastic where there's gonna be a little bit of strength and conditioning, a little bit of physical therapy, a little bit of the mental performance space, and so there's something for everybody, but where I think it's we need to have these best practices and everybody get in the room, stop trying to hide your competitive advantage, like, it's for the good of the game, let's share, and
Mhm.
something that's, I'm really looking forward to. I participate as a moderator and as a as a stan, you know, I like sitting there, learning from some of the best people on the planet. It's just it's the way we're supposed to be. You gotta stay curious, and injuries can devastate someone's career, and if they could have been prevented because of the resources we, make available, man, that would haunt me.
Yeah. You're so right about when you put your hands like this, people wanna hold their I mean, in
Yeah,
writing the book, there were so many I mean, I can't tell you every time I talk to anybody who works for a team or in a pro league of any kind, they're basically like, "Well,
yeah.
we're kinda keeping that with us," you know?
I always just look at the numbers, the multitudes, the more people that can train right, the better it is for everybody, and the more people can model that behavior. You know, young players coming up. You know, you mentioned Kenrich Williams earlier, and I always think of him as kind of their Udonis Haslem, where
Mhm,
there's somebody that's the standard bearer for
mhm.
that organization and their culture, their work ethic, everything. And it's so important when a rookie comes in, he sees somebody like that in the weight room first thing in the morning after the games and stuff like that. He's like, "Oh, this is how we do it.
This is how we do it.
Need that."
Yeah, and it helps if it's like a big, strong guy, kinda feels a little more imposing if you just wanna screw around.
Well, you know, there's a 50-50 chance he'll whoop you upside the head if you don't. That's
Exactly
what I
right.
love about the good salty veterans.
Salty veterans. Alright, I have kept you for an hour. I know you gotta take a nap, man. We've been talking
Hey,
about the importance of health and sleep.
we were gonna talk about sleep. I hope we didn't put people to sleep. I appreciate it so much, man. I look forward to catching up down the road and tell Thorpe I said what's up, and I appreciate everybody tuning in today.
Alright, likewise. Thanks, everybody. We'll do this again next week, maybe with David again. Alright, thanks, Tommy.
All right, buddy. Take care.
Okay, take care.